Okay guys, I'm going to get ready to show you how to do your monochromatic landscape and the practice that you need to do in order for you to start. So you're going to need a cup of water, the paintbrushes that I have given you. You can also borrow some of the paintbrushes that are by the sink. You're going to need your paint container, and I also provided 2 sheets of watercolor paper. This is thicker paper that's a lot more sturdy for you to paint on. So you notice that your paint container will only have black and white. So to begin with, I added a full cup of black, full cup of white. This one will be empty. And then the other 2 containers will have a little bit of white and a little bit of black. What you're going to need to do before you get started is you fill the empty cup in the middle with the color that you want your monochromatic painting to be. So you'll want to do a little research and figure out what that's going to be. I chose green. You're also going to put your color in the cups that have a little bit of white and a little bit of black, because eventually you're going to mix those to make a lighter green and a darker green. So we're going to go ahead and get started. To open these up, it's a little bit easier to kind of hold the bottom and then push the top up. Please do not destroy these cups so I can reuse them for other classes. Don't take the little cups apart, keep it all together. It's going to make it easier if we have to bring these home to work on. So slowly open these up until you reveal all your paint. So I'm doing this video at home, that's why you see these, they were already closed and I already have paint in there. So to get started, I'm going to turn this way. I want you guys to try to do a value scale. A value scale is showing the monochromatic colors in order from light to dark or dark to light. You can start either way. I'm going to go light to dark because that's a little bit easier to mix for the first time. So this is my practice paper. This is why I gave you 2 papers, because one can be your practice and then the other one can be your final. Your practice one is where you'll do your value scale. So of course, white will be the same color as your paper, and you can decide if you want to paint that on there or not. You won't really see it show up, but I'm going to put it on there just so I remember that's the color I could start with. I'm going to wash out my brush, dry it off. You'll want probably some paper towel next to you. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the next lightest color, which will actually be the green with a little bit of white in it. So I'm going to mix that up in my cup. Now right now it's not super light. What I could do to fix that is wash out my brush. You want to make sure it's absolutely clean before you do this, if you decide to do this. If your green's not totally light enough, you could squirt a little bit more white in there. I don't have my white paint container with me, so I'm just going to scoop some of the white from over here and mix it in my light green over here. Okay, so there's my lighter green. I'm going to do that next to my white. Value scale usually goes in order along the line. Not always, but to keep better track of what you're doing, it's an easier way to go. And then you're going to do your next lightest color, which is going to be, for me, plain green, because it doesn't have anything mixed in it. So it should be slightly darker than the last color I did. Okay? And then I'm going to do the next lightest, or the next darkest, however you want to say that. I'm going to wash out my brush really good every time. And so I'm switching to the paint container that has the green with a little bit of black. So I'm going to mix that up. So what I did was I just squirted the color in there that I needed with my little bit of black, and then I brought it home to use. Okay. Now, if you notice that it's a little bit too dark, I'm going to kind of do it over here just in case. I want to do one in between. So that's a pretty dark green. It's not totally black. It's definitely a darker green. I could do one in between if I wanted to, and that's why you have an extra cup. If you want to do a shade in between any of the others, you could. So I could scoop a little bit of this into this cup and add some more green if I wanted to. For this demonstration, I'm not going to make it too complicated, so I won't show you that step. But you could make a shade in between any of the others if you want an additional shade. So all you would have to do is scoop your other shades in there and make those adjustments. But you do not have to do that. And then the last one would be black in this particular scale, because that's the darkest color that I have. So my value scale goes from white, light green, green, dark green, black. So it might be a good idea for you to label them that way. So I have white, green with white, green, green with black, and then black. And that is how you want to do your scale and keep track of what you're working on. You can also do it the opposite way, so you could have started with black and gone the other way. But you need to have at least those shades in your values on your landscape. So at least 5. If you have 6, awesome. If you have more than that, awesome. But those are the main ones that I'm looking for. And then you can kind of practice out your landscape, figure out what you want to do for it, sketch it out. You could even kind of label what you want to do on your practice sheet before you start. Now to get started, you'll want your value scale next to you so you kind of remember which colors you're using for this particular project. And what's nice is these are all ready to go. They're already pre-mixed, and you don't need to really worry about getting more paint unless you run out. So if you run out, you'll have to squeeze some more paint out of the cabinet. Make sure you sanitize your hands before and after you touch the paint bottles. Okay, so the next step, you could draw out your landscape first if you feel like you're going to have details that you really need to follow closely. I'm not going to do that for this demonstration because I want to make this a quick video. So I'm going to get my bigger brush first, and I'm going to show you how you can do a really, really, really simple landscape using the paint that you have. And you can decide how complicated you want to get with yours, but you need to have all values in your landscape in some way, and your entire paper needs to be painted by the time that you are done. So I'm going to start with white up at the top, and you don't have to necessarily paint white if your paper is already white, but you might need white to do like little details, like maybe if you decide to do a snowy landscape, you might need the white for the snow, like on top of the trees or something like that. I'm just going to do like a really white sky. And I'm going to go ahead and paint it so my paper looks painted at the top. Okay, so the next shade I'm going to do, because I'm going from light to dark, and I'm kind of going to do like a mountain range, I'm going to do my lighter green. Like I said, this is a really simple one. You could do one like this, but I would suggest thinking about how you can add some details in there. Okay, so there's my mountain range in the background. So now I'm going to do the middle ground. I'm going to do that with my regular green. I'm going to do another like set of mountains, I think. You might have to do a couple coats of your regular color because your regular color tends to be a little see-through if it doesn't have black or white in it. So if it's not turning out as dark as you want, you might need to do 2 coats. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra space down here. So I want it to start to look like a valley here eventually. Okay. Okay, so the next one I'm going to work on is the next darkest green. So I did white, light green, middle green, and now I'm going to do the darker one. And I'm going to kind of do more like hills, I think. And you can see it's already starting to look like a very basic landscape. It doesn't even have any landscape features on it yet other than just the landmass. Okay, there's my hills. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get my black to do this kind of like foreground area where it's gonna be really dark. And remember, you don't have to do yours this way. This is just my simple version of a landscape that you guys could try for yours. But I would suggest looking up some ideas to come up with an interesting way to paint your landscape. And I could add things to this after I get the main land masses done. I could add trees. I could put in a lake. I can add like a sunset in the back. You still have to use your black, white, and main color shades. You still have to use only those colors, but you could add those other elements in using those colors. You just have to be smart about where you place them. So there's my foreground. That is going to be black in the front. So it would be kind of fun if I got a smaller brush. In the foreground, I could take my black and start painting in some trees that exist right here in the foreground. And they would be bigger in the foreground because in the foreground things look really close to you. So that means that they're going to be bigger when you see them. So then I could do like a smaller tree here maybe. And what's cool about trees is they don't have to be perfect. You can kind of just eyeball it and think about what you want your branches to do on your trees. Okay, so that just gives you some ideas. I'm going to stop the video here because I don't want it to be too lengthy, but I just wanted to show you some ideas that you could do on your landscape to add some detail and other elements along with your values. If you have questions during class, please let me know.